What's wrong with Michael Penix? Hop into the bird bath. What's going on, family? It's your boy Seymour C. Mitchell, checking in with another weekly Falcons Bird Bath. Shout out to our loyal subscribers and fans, and all those who check in with us weekly. And if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button so you can stay up to date with the fastest growing, dopest Falcons local sports show on the internet. Real quick, we're going to get into some of the changes the Falcons have made, the changes that I'd like to see them make, what's going on with Michael Penix, as well as the preview for the Commanders game. First and foremost, recently the Falcons Bird Bath lost one of his very own, our dear friend Yoda. Earlier this week, Yoda lost his battle to cancer, an ongoing battle that we had going on for a few years. Yoda brought a lot of joy to a lot of people and touched a lot of lives, not only my own. I want to thank you, my friend, for 6 dope years. Salute. But without further ado, we're going to push along because that's what Yoda would do. We got an upcoming game with the Commanders. Ike Hilliard was fired, then they're moving Zac Robinson to the sidelines. And a lot of people are saying, what is that going to do to both of those moves? I will say first and foremost, with Ike Hilliard, there were some bad receiving groupings that I didn't like out there. There were some sloppy routes. But truthfully, the receivers have been hurt. Darnell Mooney and Drake London both have had injuries with their shoulders. And I think it's kind of hard to be 100% with those type of injuries that those guys have. Also, in addition to that, it's not as if our third and fourth receivers in our receiving core are necessarily the greatest that there are. We'll say that we're not doing the best that we could do to get the most use out of Casey Washington, who is a bit of a burner. On the surface level, a lot of people think that firing Ike Hilliard is a scapegoat move. Personally, in my humble opinion, I think that it's a message to Zac Robinson and the rest of the team that anybody's replaceable and anybody's expendable. But we don't know what's happening behind the scenes with the team. There could have been an argument, there could have been some type of other insubordination or some type of riff or some type of difference of philosophy that also got him fired. But according to all reports, the players on the team really like Ike Hilliard. So the Falcons are moving Zac Robinson out of the booth into the sideline. And according to Raheem, this is a bit more to get them better communication. There was a delay of game penalty that happened after we called up timeout to avoid a delay of game penalty. This was also an issue with getting the play calls in due to headsets when the Falcons played Week 1 against the Buccaneers. But in my humble opinion, I think they're getting Zac Robinson on the sideline because they want him to have a better idea of the flow of the game and what the energy and the mood is on the sideline and get a better feel for some of the situational football and some of the heat of the moment battles that's going on. Also, I think that they want him to have a better line of communication with the offense, the quarterback, and players right there in general. It's not uncommon to have your coordinators on the sideline in coaching. So I don't rule that out all the way. But one thing I wouldn't be surprised of is if behind the scenes, they're doing this to take some of the offensive adjustments in the game situational football out of Zac Robinson's hand. He hasn't been very good with his play calls in situational football or some of the adjustments that we've had out here. Now, we did hear Zac Robinson say that he was going to simplify the playbook a little bit more and make it a little bit easier and dumb things down. Now, in my humble opinion, I think this is a pretty good move, but what I'd like to see them do is instead of having like, say, 2 formations, which we have now, we run primarily out of the pistol and the shotgun. And a lot of fans don't like the pistol, and they say it's a little bit too predictable. I don't think that the pistol is a problem, but I think that the problem is that we're running pistol too much and we're running shotgun far too much. Dan Orlovsky did a really nice piece where he talked about how Bijan Robinson is actually getting the ball 7 yards in the backfield, but he's lined up 8 to 9 yards deep in the pistol, whereas if he was in a regular single back formation, it'd be more like 5 to 6. Orlovsky pointed out, because all Penix had to do was just turn around right here to barely hand off the ball to Bijan Robinson, he says that this doesn't stress the defense. And he follows him out here on the boot. And he says this kind of causes some problems with some of the predictability of the offense and not being able to set up other plays. What I'd like to see the Falcons do is maybe have 5 formations with more like 40 or 50 plays and running the same plays out of a lot of different looks and making teams prepare for those different looks and having counters to set up off of that. One thing I said before, we don't run any RPO. I think that would be helpful. I'd love to see them get into a little bit more single back with Penix under the center as well too. It kind of makes it harder for defensive ends and linebackers to read and tell whether it's play action or actually a run. Not having to run from under center, it makes it easier for him to see that it's not truly a run. It gives him a little bit more space to see what's going on. He doesn't have to guess. These guys are far too athletic to leave those guys like right there like that. Maybe you have Penix under center with 2 backs in the backfield. Or sell that fake a little bit more. Hide that ball when he's going on some of those plays. And throw more passes from under center. Gets Penix on the move and kind of keeps him a little bit more aware. Truthfully, I don't think that fans should really be panicking right now. all the problems that the Falcons have are really, truly fixable. If you look at the stats from last week, the Panthers didn't necessarily do too great. They only had 224 total yards. The team was also 3 of 11 on third downs. That's pretty good for your defense, forcing an offense to only get 3 conversions on 11 attempts. This team is not built to play from behind. We don't have a lot of burners that can go deep. We don't have a lot of guys that can make up big plays and big chunk yards in a hurry. We're built to play with leads. So we've got to get out here and run the ball this week against the Commanders. If we go out here and we establish the run at the beginning of the game, run the ball consistently, and make teams commit to stopping our run game, it will open up things downfield in the passing game. Right now, teams are sitting on us, have 2 safeties up high. Safety right here and a safety over here. This gives you a lot lighter box. We're running a lot of 3 receiver sets right here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in the box. This is grounds to run the ball all day. If I'm the coordinator, I want to run those guys out of that 2 safety high. To running the ball and pounding on a team, they want to bring one of these safeties right here and bring them down in the box. We're going out here passing in these formations far too often. And all game long, the Falcons were able to get good yardage. And even when we put our 3rd string running back in the game, he was averaging over 4 yards per carry. Looking at the injury report for the Falcons and the Commanders, and like I mentioned, 3rd string running back Nate Carter. They've already ruled out Jaden Daniels. They've ruled out Terry McLaurin. They've also ruled out Noah Brown. So essentially, 2 biggest weapons we got to worry about on offense for them is Deebo Samuels and Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt. And that's not chopped liver. I know they got Mariota out there, and they won a game last week. So we said in our first look earlier this week with the Commanders, they definitely think that they can win, and they feel as though they can win with Mariota. This defense isn't just chopped liver. This defense isn't terrible. They've actually got some guys out there who can rush the passer. As far as defenses go, the Commanders are the 20th ranked defense in the NFL. But as far as points per game, Commanders are the 12th ranked defense. 5th with quarterback pressures, and they're number 1 in quarterback pressure percentage. I think this is going to be a lot like some of the game when we played against the Minnesota Vikings. We need to take a very similar approach. Teams that get a lot of pressure and they're very aggressive, they're a little bit more susceptible to the run, ourselves included. Sometimes you can give up a little bit more plays with the running offense. We'll move the ball all up and down the field between the 20s, and once you get into the green zone, into the red zone scoring opportunities, it becomes a little bit harder. Offensively, the Commanders are 9th in the league in yards per game. And as far as points per game, the Commanders are sitting at number 7. Of course, a good amount of their rushing offense came from Jaden Daniels, but they also have some very good running backs that I wouldn't want to sleep on. Now, they also are playing Marcus Mariota, and even though he wasn't great for us, he seems to be excelling in kind of hitting the reads that you'd want him to hit in this Cliff Kingsbury offense. So this is a game that we don't need to take lightly. We don't want to go down 1-3 in this division with the Panthers and the Buccaneers in front of us right now. And we want to be able to maintain a lead on those Saints that we have right now. Going down 1-3 would be terrible for us and could change the overall morale of the team right now. Offensively, the problems that we have are not really that unfixable. I hate to be the dead horse, but like I said, we need to definitely run the ball a lot more to get Penix going a little bit more. I think we're putting too much pressure on Penix and asking him to do too much with his arms, and they're falling in love with the fact that he can make all the reads, that he can go through his progressions, but they are forgetting he still is a rookie quarterback, and if you're asking him to do too much, the pressure can be a bit much. That's why you drafted Zac Robinson in the first round with a top 10 pick. This offensive line is built and set up to be able to run the ball on teams and tee off on teams. That's going to open things up with the play action. Chris Sims broke down some of the key components with the problems with Michael Penix's mechanics.
I've never seen Michael Penix look like this, and I know it's still early on in his NFL career. Mechanically, when he throws to his right side, he's so closed like this, but he's throwing it over here, and then he decides to throw, and he just swings open. Let's take real technicians, Brady or Joe Burrow right now. They wouldn't be like here and go, wait, I'm going to throw a comeback and just one swoop, just go, boom, and just turn their whole body and not really step to the target. He throws the pick 6 to Cam Smith-Wade, and the play is for Rodney McLeod. Rodney McLeod's wide open.
So his progressions right here are 1 on Kyle Pitts, 2 right here in the slot to Drake London with the curl route, And then you got Ray McCloud over here is your third progression read. And right here, you can see this linebacker is looking over this way and breaking that way. This play is set up right behind him for Ray to go right into this area right here. And Penix looks right past him with his peripheral. And like they said, he's still flat right here. He doesn't get his feet behind him. He doesn't get any power driven behind him. And he just looks right at Bijan right here, while you got this DB over here sitting right here on that cover 4 right here. Also, I'm going to give a shout out to Josh DeLurgio. He also pointed out a play earlier in the game where Michael Penix could have either stepped up and ran, or he could have stepped him in the pocket and threw the ball. Now, they come with a blitz. But if he steps up right there, he can make that play. These are moves that you would see Michael Penix make mostly. But for some reason, he was a lot in his head on Sunday. And at the same time, reports from the team say that Michael Penix has gone around to the defensive players this week apologizing for the bad play that he had this past game and took full responsibility for the loss. So you got Zac Robinson and Michael Penix both taking responsibility for this loss. Love to see that type of leadership on your team from your coordinator as well as from your quarterback. They do need this win, but it's about how they respond and how they win or lose this game. But the mark of a good team is that you don't let teams stick around that you're better than. You don't play down to your competition. And like I said, the Falcons have historically done that a lot. Playing Marcus Mariota, and even though he wasn't great for us, he seems to be excelling in kind of hitting the reads that you'd want him to hit in this Cliff Kingsbury offense. So the Falcons can't take this guy for granted this week. All right, family, that's our show for today. Stay tuned. We're going to live stream the game again. We'll hit you guys with a few insights and stats during the game as well, too. Check out our stream on Sunday on the YouTube channel on Point Game Official. Email to C. Mitchell. Checking out for Point Game Official on Falcons Bird Bath.